Hello, Wasteland! Yes, welcome back, brothers! That's right, we're having a look at a Trench Crusade build, or rather, a Trash Crusade build. Oh, yes. So this is a simple idea. So, with the wonderful world that we live in, the parks and all the play areas, what if we were to clean them up of all the sort of non-biodegrading material, all the plastic, all the metal, all the glass, all the rubbish that clogs our streets and our parks? So I decided, this is something I've had on my mind for a while now, but what if I went out there, I borrowed a litter picker off a friend, and I just went out and I picked up every single piece of hard plastic that I saw, with the idea of washing it, cleaning it at home, and then turning it into something. Turning it into a miniature or a piece of terrain or a robot or whatever. You know, you see a lot of really creative people online trash bashing things. Well, I love the idea of doing that with the actual trash that you would find close to where you live. We're just talking about if you walk outside your house right now and have a look at the street and the gutter and where the trees grow, how much rubbish is there? How many disposable vapes? How many bottle tops? How many bits of hard plastic that's never going to biodegrade? It's never going to vanish unless someone comes along and picks it up. Some of this stuff is hazardous to the environment and the creatures that live in it. So that's what I did. I went out, and this is all from the space of maybe a half an hour of just walking outside. And it's a bit shameful when you look at just how much stuff you can find if you actually stop and start picking this stuff up. But there you go, that's the idea. So I'm going to turn this into something. So we're going to use decision roulette to decide. So hit the wheel, boys. And the winner is... I know it's the best bit, isn't it? A miniature, yes. So building a miniature out of all this trash. Right, so what are we going to do with this? Well, one of the easier options, I think, considering it's been a long time since I've just tried to make something out of nothing, without using any bits from model kits or anything like that. So one of the easier options is to build like a vehicle, something with wheels or something with tracks, or a robot. Because robots can be a bit eccentric, can't they? They can be a bit weird, they can be a bit lopsided, the legs can be a bit too long, the arms can be a bit too thick and stubby, or it can be armed with guns instead of regular hands, or you name it. With a robot you can get away with a lot of things that the materials, if you don't have the best materials to work up from, you know, literal rubbish picked up off the ground, it can be quite forgiving. And that was the idea. So I started with this empty e-cigarette liquid bottle, and I quite like the idea of putting the metal guard at the top of a scratch cigarette lighter, like you get like a Zippo lighter, to make it like an interesting domed shape head. And then the actual clicky bit from a lighter to sort of cover the gap underneath it. And before you know it, the idea is forming of, right, this is how I'm going to build the torso of this thing, this is how I'm going to build the head, this is how I'm going to build the arms, the legs, and you just jump into it. Now don't get me wrong, off screen I've already washed all this trash. I brought it home in a bag, and I chucked it all in the bathroom sink with some hand soap and an old ratty toothbrush that you're not going to use. Just scrub all the filth off it. And once it's dried out, you can just, you know, start cutting and sticking bits together. And being hard plastics, some of them you can cut with a craft knife, some of them you have to use a bit more force, and some of them you have to, you know, crack out the old laser saw to cut through it. But it's all about finding shapes, it's all about filling gaps, it's all about having... The materials tell you what the end product's going to look like. This isn't a, right, I've got a picture in my mind of what I want this to look like. This is going, right, if I glue this mouthpiece off of a disposable vape to the bottom of this vape liquid bottle, that could be a pelvis. And then to that I can attach, you know, these other pipe bits to make the suggestion of hips. And then before you know it, you're building something that looks like something rather than just a pile of rubbish. But we're not there yet. This is still early on. One of the things you can do, although I don't do at any point throughout this video except towards the end, is you can always sand the surfaces. I'm just using your generic cheap super glue to glue these bits together, and I've had zero problems with this build. But I know with some materials like yogurt pots or dish bottle soap containers, like they're a prime example of something that will not just nicely super glue together. One of the things you will see me do a bit later on is the old bicarbonate of soda trick, but as always, if you're struggling to glue things together, just get out a bit of accelerant or baking powder, bicarbonate of soda, sprinkle that on and it will just set instantly. But I wanted to just get as far into this build as I could before having to do that to strengthen bonds. But yeah, it's a remarkably simple idea, and yet it's surprising how few people have actually thought to try this. Because we are surrounded by plastic waste in our modern lives. We are just bombarded by material waste. And the fact that it is now clogging up our parks, our green spaces, it is a concern. And that kind of led to the theme of this robot in the end, because I've been looking at Trench Crusade. I'm going to have a game this weekend, and one of the things about the Trench Crusade is it's an apocalyptic world, and you think, well, just because you're making a model for an apocalypse doesn't mean that our world has to be an apocalyptic wasteland. We've got the opportunity to change that, haven't we? And this is a way to do it. And sometimes you get things that can offer little opportunity. So here you can see I've already sorted the legs out. I've skipped ahead and just gotten those done because they were really awkward. I'm making this as I believe it's called an Anchorite Warshrine for my Trench Pilgrim group, the warband that I've put together for Trench Crusade. And it's meant to be a big sort of mech power suit thing, so just get some generic powered looking legs and put those together. And I will say this build became a lot easier once I had a objective to work towards, because an Anchorite Warshrine for the Trench Pilgrims, unless you're using one of the special factions, they're always armed the same way. They've got the Catherine wheel, a great big shield that they will impale volunteers on, shall we say, and then they carry a big stone mace. Now, as you can see, I don't have any stone here, but I do have interesting plastic materials. But just while you can see in the footage that I'm cutting up this bottle lid to turn into the base for the shield, I will say I do find it a bit ironic that these are the new style plastic bottle lids that are meant to have the little tabs on to keep them attached to the bottle, and people just snap them off. So you think, well, why bother? Because people are just going to litter them regardless. But hey, people have to try, don't they? And that's what this is all about. This is about cleaning up the environment and making miniatures out of the things that we find outside. And admittedly, I'm not really talking too much about the model making, and it's, you might find that quite irritating, but the reality is you can see what I'm doing. You can see the steps that I'm taking. You don't need me spoon feeding you how to build a plastic toy robot. Lots of people online have already done that. But I just want to talk about saving the environment and protecting it a bit, and doing that by just walk outside. And if you see plastic waste that you think, hang on, I could turn that into a model something, then do so. Pick it up. What's stopping you? This is an incredibly low barrier to entry project, because the sad reality is, for a lot of us, if we go outside, we'll see a lot of plastic waste in the world around us, which means there's a lot of materials to work with. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? On the one hand, it's good because it means that, yes, you at home, you could be doing this right now. Just walk outside, pick up some plastic rubbish, pick up some disposed vapes that people have chucked on the floor because they're savages, take it all home, wash it, clean it, and then start building something. But then the sad side of that is the fact that there is so much plastic waste out there that doesn't get recycled, that won't biodegrade. So, as you can see, I've turned things like these plastic tubes with screws in. The screws weren't coming out, but I turned those into smokestacks and used a bit of the screw thread to actually hold it into the plastic bottle for a bit of strength. The club, the stone club of the Anchorite Warshrine, I've actually made that out of just snapping up bits of the bigger bits of plastic and then layering them, and then when it's painted it's going to look like like multiple stone slabs, like broken bits of monastery or something, have been layered together and then had a big hole bored through and a big metal pipe stuck through it and bound in wire and all sorts of interesting materials. Alright, so this is a Trench Crusade build, so just as an addendum, you're going to see crucifixes, you're going to see depictions of Christ, you're going to see lots of very sensitive holy imagery. So if you do find that a bit offensive, well, you know, it's Trench Crusade. What were you expecting? You can see the title of the video. It's a very polarizing war game, shall we say. Alright, so this plastic dinosaur mould thing, which I can only guess is like a Play-Doh toy, I don't know. The actual little plastic clips, they had these wonderful curved edges. And this is the thing, it's all about pattern matching and filling gaps. And I just found that these fit wonderfully at the shoulders and helped square those out a bit. Because when you've got limited materials, it's all about what you do with them. Because you might pick up a load of pipes and tubes and think, oh, well, you know, anything I make out of this isn't going to look very good. But once you start cutting things and changing things and layering things and putting smaller pipes within bigger pipes, and then later on I'll use a bit of an old pair of earbuds and I'll use that as cabling to connect up to the arms, it all starts fitting together. As you can see, I've also put some stuff in the base there to make that destroyed trench base. Now I am going to break the rule of this video. I am actually going to use some non-trash materials that weren't found outside. Scandalous, I know, but it's my video. Call the police. And I'm going to use these coffee stirrers to make like wooden shields that are going to go on the shoulders of this guy. And it's the oldest trick in the world. Just take some coffee stirrers, cut them roughly to the length you think you need them, and then remember to split them, because coffee stirrers, as they are, same as lollipop sticks, they're too wide, they're too thick. You need to split them down so that they look more pallet wood sized, you know, sort of shape, the sort of 2x4 shape that you'd actually have at that scale. And then a bit of plasticard as banding over the top. Yes, I'll use plasticard. Yes, I'll use plastic rod and metal ball bearings and beads and all sorts to detail this. As I said, scandalous, I know, absolutely scandalous. However, I think I can get away with it considering the other 95% of this build is entirely made out of junk plastic that I picked up outside, as you could see at the start of the video. And this is the nice thing as well, when you realise that the material cost of the project is nothing, you can kind of cut and adapt it and break bits off and change them as the project develops, because, well, there's no cost associated to it. There's no feeling of, oh, I don't want to damage it. It's already damaged. This stuff was lying in the trash outside. You know, it was never going to be turned into anything until you came along and picked it up and turned it into something. Here you can see at the back of the legs, I use the spring from the cigarette lighter to create the little knee joints. And the shield does require a person to be broken upon it, so here is a little bound person that was actually from the Tarantula Wargames Atlantic Space Spider kit. So yes, here it is, the finished build, and as I said, this is a remarkably simple thing. I'd say this was one of the quickest and easiest projects I've done in a long time. Total build was maybe, you know, a couple of afternoons, because it's very relaxed and very simple to just, you're able to, once the build starts going and you've got the torso and the legs sorted, right, all of a sudden you're going faster than the glue can actually set on the model, because things just start fitting into place. All of a sudden you start seeing the shapes and where they will go, and it just works, it just makes sense. And painting's been a breeze, and I've painted up my whole Trench Pilgrim warband now, which points-wise is probably terrible, like weapon choices, but shotguns and flamethrowers, it sounded like something that holy pilgrims would use against the fight against, they'd use in the fight against the literal devil. The paint job itself was super easy, and you can have fun with it, and you can paint up the crucifixes to stand out, and you can paint up the little guy stuck to the wheel, and you can have fun painting the different stone textures or the rust textures, or even, you know, on the wooden panelling. Yeah, you can just have some hands nailed on there, or you could paint a little depiction of our Lord and Saviour, you know, why not? Why not? In the world of Trench Crusade, it makes sense, okay? But this is not about Trench Crusade, this is about a trash crusade. So I encourage you, if you're watching this, go outside, find some scrap plastic that is clogging up our greenery, our wonderful Mother Nature, take it home and turn it into something. Turn it into a miniature or a piece of terrain or a vehicle. Because you can do this. Just because Trench Crusade is set in a hell on earth apocalypse doesn't mean that we have to live in a hell on earth apocalypse. We can change it one piece of plastic trash at a time. Alright, thank you all for watching, boys and girls, and I hope this video has inspired you somewhat, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye bye.